Welcome back to Fantasy Baseball. Baseball. I'm down today along with Steve Romano. Steve, we're in a head-to-head league called Field of Dreams. I've been in it over for a decade. You've been in it for 3 or 4 seasons. We still haven't looked that up. And it's a great competitive league with a lot of activity. It's a 14-team league, standard 5x5 head-to-head league, snake draft. And right now, we have a pretty interesting thing going on. We got Carn Evil 9 still in first place. First place for many weeks, now 4.5 up on Lumber Company and Mr. Awesome's Momo, who's moved up, both 4.5 games back, second and third place. Baltimore Chop, 7.5 games back. IP Tigers, 8.5 back. And then Stony Sliders, 11 games back. I'm barely above 500 at 24, 23, and 3. Um, Pretty impressive. Carnival has 36 wins, the most in the league, 13 losses and one tie. The next best amount of wins is 31 by Lumber Company.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at Carnival Nine's lineup. We got Kelly at catcher, Naylor at first base, Holiday at shortstop, Donovan at third base, Edwards at shortstop, Rooker in the outfield, Pazis of the Dodgers in the outfield, Tucker in the outfield, Crow Armstrong in the outfield. This is Soderstrom on his bench, and Chisholm he just lost to injury, so that's a pretty strong offensive team for sure in a week-to-week matchup. Starting pitcher Singer, Ray. Uh, Lugo, Severino, Verlander, and Job. So not a bad start. I like his offense more, but obviously for a head-to-head, as we talked about the difference in strategy between head-to-head and roto, it's working for him. He's in first place by a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Tucker's ranked three, Armstrong's ranked Tucker's ranked two, Armstrong's ranked three. Oh, um, yeah, Soderstrom, you said he's not even playing them?
Well, he's on his bench today. I've got to
Oh,
think
today,
that
right, right.
he does have a full boat. So I don't know. Stream slumping lately. Yes, he's two for his last 10. So maybe he's just sitting him out because he does have a full boat starting across the board, especially in the position
Probably.
Soderstrom starts. So
Well,
yeah,
he's
he may
got
be riding out a
Tuck.
slump. He's active, obviously, so I can see him doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
So
he's ranked 24. Brandon Donovan's ranked 53. Josh Naylor, 54. Carson Kelly, 61. Brent Rooker, 89.
oof,
So one, two, three, four, five, six, seven hitters in the top 90
wow.
in a 14 team league. That's pretty impressive.
That's very impressive. Carnival 9 in first place. We went down to sixth place where I am, barely above 500, 24, 23, and 3, 11 back. Humboldt Crabs also above 500, tied with me in seventh, 25, 24, and 1. And then Creek Expos rounding out the 500 teams. Get this, Creek Expos is 25, 25, and no ties. The only team with no ties.
Dang.
Yeah, interesting. 500 team, 25 and 25. And then it goes Raptor, 21 and 26 and 3. Juiced Up for Summer, 20, 26 and 4. Big Time Taters, 20, 28 and 2. Atlanta Braves, 19, 29 and 2. SoCal Stat Fillers, 17, 31 and 2. They're 18 and a half back. And then in last place, the Money Lollygaggers, 11, 35 and 4. 23 and a half games back. I think the top 6 or 8 make playoffs. I cannot remember. Is it 6?
I think it's six. Yeah.
Yep, I think
Yeah.
so.
Top two have the bye, and then three through six.
Last week's matchup, or what you would think, Lumber Company won 8-2 over SoCal Fillers. Um, the first place team Carnival won 5-4. IP Tigers, the fifth place team, right behind them. So that was a close matchup. Um, Mr. Awesome's Momo tied with Humboldt Crabs, 5-5. Creek Expos and Big Time were 5-5 tied. Raptor and Juiced Up for Summer, the ninth and 10th place team, 5-4. Baltimore Chop beat Lollygaggers 5-3. And I beat the Atlanta Braves 6-4. So pretty close matchups. Only that 8-2 really stands out. Everything else close to 5-4, 5-5, 5-5. Decent matchups. Money Lollygaggers trying to get out of last place had a decent week. So let's go over a couple of what's going on, like with your team. How do you feel about your team, Steve?
Well, I'm recuperating from draft mishaps, and I don't. They're It's 14 team league. It's deep. There's nothing really on the waiver wire.
No,
So you got to kind of really, you really just got to play even more so than what we were discussing in the rotisserie style league we are in. You take the flyers on the hot guys because if it's only 1 week, you know what? That's fine. In a week to week league, that could help you win that week.
absolutely. And I mean, your goal is to, every matchup at least beat them above 500, 6-4 at the least, 5-4-1 or something. Have those big weeks when you can. You got to write out those hot players because it's a week to week game. It's not an overall game. It's an overall stats
Yeah.
based on the week to week, but yes, absolutely. Looking at your team, you did pick up Flores. One of your best players on your team probably is a guy you picked up.
Yeah, yeah, he's off to a good start for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You got bets. Besides those two, I don't see really anybody in the top 100 batting story. Yeah.
Yep, Story, and
Well, we
Merrill
said,
got hurt. He's been out longer than I thought he'd
yeah,
be.
there's a guy you could use. We talked about early podcast about this head-to-head Field of Dreams league that during the draft you had at least 3 or 4 picks. Like a guy, the snake draft was getting right down to you a pick or two before, and they snagged the player you had in your queue.
Yeah.
So you
Although one of them
scrambled.
I just saw was I believe Jazz Chisholm, who was one of my guys that was stolen. I had him ready to go in my queue with my second round pick. And then right before me or two before me, he gets taken. And that kind of messed with what I wanted to get from that position as far as the stats available in that range. And but he was taken from the guy who's in first place. So on
Right.
top of all the great hitters he has on his team, he also has Jazz Chisholm on his injured list now.
Yeah, and I have Chisholm. It's a tough thing. He's got great counting stats, but his average is below 200. So, but in a head-to-head league, it doesn't matter as much. I mean, obviously, it's one category that he's hurting, but in a roto league, that's going to hurt me all the end of the season with his 168 or 186, whatever he's batting. But in a
Yeah,
head-to-head league,
181.
181. I was close. And but yes, so he's a tough guy to own. I have him in the roto league. Real quick on the pickups, in a league like this, we're still going to have a lot of pickups every week because of the strategy of picking up hot players, because it's just accumulating stats and getting those innings at the end of the week from your pitchers if you're just behind in the pitching stats. So there's always a lot of move. I wanted to start with a couple moves. We don't need to go through them all, but we talked about him last week. He was dropped, and you picked up Cam Smith and dropped Conforto.
Yep, I mean, I don't expect the world out of Cam Smith, but at least there's definitely a higher upside of possibility with him over Conforto, and Conforto had been stinky, and they're not really playing him against lefties at all.
And Cam does have dual position,
Yep, and the dual position, yes. So it
which
was the dual position, the unknown of potential, and then what appears to be limitations in Conforto's current game.
right. Absolutely. I think it was a good stab. It's worth rolling that dice. T. Rogers, relief pitcher, was picked up. Lawlar, I bring up because he's a highly touted, isn't he? Lawlar, the shortstop.
Yeah,
He
highly
and
touted.
a shortstop from Oakland was dropped, Wilson, who's had a decent start.
Hmm. He's one of those guys, though,
Yeah,
like Luis Arias, right?
yeah,
Like best
not a
case
lot of power,
scenario.
no stolen
I'm
bases.
like, he could hit 350, I guess. It's possible, but yeah, he could give you like, 8 home runs and 5 stolen bases or something.
Right, and he's not with the greatest team, although they play. I like the Athletics. I think they have a very good team. They're in a great park, but it's not the best offensive team. Really up and coming though in some ways. Speaking of the A's, Sears pitches for him, I believe. He was picked up. Gusto was dropped. I got a few I want to go through here. Gonsolin was picked up. Santana, the relief pitcher,
Yeah,
was dropped.
No, Santander is the outfielder, Toronto guy.
The next
Oh,
guy
sorry, the guy
was
you dropped for Gansel. Sorry, go
yeah, no,
ahead.
that's okay because Santander was next. You're totally correct. He was the next guy who was added by the Tigers, IP Tigers.
And we talked about him too last week. Like we talked about Cam Smith and Santander being high profile guys that were people had given up on.
Yeah.
And I picked up Smith. I thought about picking up Santander, but I couldn't decide who to drop on that particular day. And it took me a day too long.
Yeah, he's a guy who could, the next 4 or 5 months could be like he's done the last 2, 3 seasons. So I think it was a great pickup. I picked up Ginkel and dropped Wozensky because Ginkel may get some saves. A
Yep.
Miller relief pitcher was added. Geloff was dropped. Lollygaggers picked up Wilson. Lollygaggers picked up Manzardo, who I had dropped because I needed a pitcher, but I was kind of hoping I'd be able to get him back, but I wasn't. And he dropped P. Smith, who's playing well for Arizona. But Manzardo was some good counting stat numbers,
Yeah.
without
I
a
mean,
doubt.
really, there's a bunch of good names, a bunch of good quality names in this past week of transactions that would only happen in a 14-team league and a head-to-head league, right? Because
Exactly. Exactly. I never would have dropped Manzardo in a roto league. I
mm,
have him in the roto league, but in this head-to-head league where I needed a pitcher and my roster spots were slim, I said I'll drop Manzardo. I got another first
yeah,
baseman, and
Manzardo wouldn't have been dropped. Jacob Wilson, Santander wouldn't have been dropped.
right.
I mean, Cam Smith wouldn't have been dropped.
And we're talking deep starting lineups in the Roto League. We got, also a corner infielder, a middle infielder. We have two extra outfielder spots besides left, center, right. So, and two catchers. So it's definitely a lot of players needed, but they would not be available, and there are. So it is fun to go through the head-to-head transaction list. Trevino was
Yeah,
picked up over
definitely.
Diaz. Ortiz was picked up. Kirkring was dropped. I've talked about Kirkring. I've had him a few times in this league and the other league. I don't know. He's just blowing up for the Phillies. It's a shame. Um, I'm going backwards. Gusto and was picked up for Feed. Ray for Roop. Now I'll go back up. Dobbins for Krauser. Murphy was dropped. Darvish picked up for Cassis. Cassis out for the season. Sad. We talked about it earlier. 25-year-old lost by the Red
Yeah,
Sox. B. Lowe picked up. He's out there, a decent guy to pick up. He could hit for you. Baltimore Chop picked him up on Saturday. I picked up Stowers from Miami, I believe. He's playing great for them. I needed an outfielder, and I picked him up.
yeah, he's on
Acuna.
fire.
Yeah, he's on fire. He's on fire. I don't know if he's going to, but once again, riding out that hot hand, whether he keeps it up or not. Acuna was picked up by the Braves. He playing for really well for the Mets and playing more than I thought he would.
Yep, I agree.
Saguna for Allen. Hoglund, Kim, Tidwell for Tobbins, McCullers for India. I also gave up on India in a league. McCullers Jr. I think he's coming back soon if he's not back. Warren Lorenzen was picked up. Trevino Crawford was picked up. Jay Crawford's shortstop and Berger was given up on by the big time
Yeah.
Taters.
Well, on that day, it was Sunday, and I was down 4-6, and I ended up tying them, finishing the week 5-5. But I didn't have any shortstop available. Trevor Story was getting the day off, and I needed a shortstop. And in this league, in the head-to-head format with these rosters, granted, there's 14 teams, so it is deep. But I was like, no, I'm not going to wait on Jake Berger right now. We'll see what happens. But I'd rather have a shortstop in my lineup for the day. And as we've talked about, the Mariners are playing great, and J.P. Crawford is kind of on a heater himself right now.
Yeah, he is hot. I see. Berger's totally droppable in a head-to-head format. I think at this point, obviously, he's nice to hold on if he comes around. Great to get back if he does start to get hot. Nick Martinez was picked up. Hendricks was dropped. Myers was picked up by you, and dropped was Williams. They were all by you. Those last three moves: Martinez,
Yeah, that was
Myers.
my Sunday morning trying to squeak out some a point or two.
Sunday morning at 10 o'clock as the games begin. Okay, so Phillips was added
Yeah,
on
I love
Sunday
that. That was
morning.
great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Uh, Conley was dropped. Murphy picked up. Atlanta catcher. It could be a good catcher to pick up. And then we talked about Baez in the other segment too, but Baez playing great for
Yeah.
Detroit. Creek Expos picked him up. He's a tri-position player, third base, shortstop, and outfield. A guy I kind of wish I would have picked up.
Yeah. And I gotta admit, I wish I would have seen Sean Murphy out there. Why
Absolutely,
would I never like that's a guy I would have thought was on a team the whole time, you know?
absolutely,
I,
absolutely. Well, once
oh,
again, we have 20 catchers, two catchers, 10 teams. This is 14. Not everyone has a second
right,
catcher in a head-to-head, and that
right.
makes
And I get that, but when he came back from that injured list, I mean, he was pretty much great right out of the gate. I just would have assumed somebody had him by now.
yeah, I agree. And so there's once again in this format. There's more players available than we're used to seeing. Baez was just picked up in our league also. Gurriel, the outfielder, was picked up by Chopped, and Brandon Lowe, he just picked up a few days earlier, was dropped, and then Tidwell was dropped early this no at 4 o'clock today, so a few minutes ago. So that's what's going on in the head-to-head league. Always competitive and fun. I love this active league, Field of Dreams. I was 6-4 last week after being 5-5. So oh no, 2 weeks in a row I've won actually, 6-4 and 6-4. So it's been nice to try and come back. I'm in sixth place now, which is where you want to be at least. Top six, make the playoffs. But a good, fun league and an active league. I think that's when you comes to a head-to-head league, that's really what you need. People who are active.
For me, my weekly breakdown has been pretty good except for 1 week. I've had a 5-5 week, a 4-5 week, a 5-4 week, and a 5-5 week. Pretty
Right.
even, right?
Absolutely.
But the week I played Carnival 9, I went 1-9.
Right.
So really all of my shittiness, not that I'm great. My team is very average, but the shittiness happened in that 1 week where I played the best team in the league.
I had a 2-8 and a 2-5. Now that 2-5 definitely is a little less of a sting with those three ties. Um,
Hmm.
Absolutely. But yeah, my I had that 1-2-8 week, my first week. So far my team is playing pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. That's the head-to-head league Field of Dreams. I'm Dan O'Day. That's Steve Romano. Thanks for joining.
Have a good one.
Cheers.